Warning: the following program may contain material not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
The borders of space and time have opened once again. And transmitting from the mountains of West Virginia, it's time once again for Let's Find Out with Diego. The universe is waiting for you. Wake up and remember.
On this episode of Let's Find Out, our guest returns with the sequel to her 2022 book, It's Not Goodbye 2, More Signs from Beyond. We will be covering even more stories of the family, friends, and pets who have reached out from across the veil. Whether it's a message through a medium or direct sign, these stories remind us that our loved ones are still very much with us. From vivid dreams and visions to the sound of familiar footsteps, you'll hear tales that are both startling and deeply touching. It's a powerful reminder that there is something more beyond our last breath, that dying isn't the end, and death is never truly goodbye. All this plus more. Please welcome a very good friend of our show, author and paranormal investigator, Cyn Shrader Hill. Cyn, my friend, welcome back to Let's Find Out. It's always a great pleasure having you on, my friend.
I love coming on talking to you. It's been a while.
It's been a little while. I think I had you on earlier last year. Mm-hmm. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, you were either just starting to write this book or you were in the middle of it or ready to wrap it up.
I think I was just starting it because I had just finished Mark's cookbook. And this one was next on the horizon. And I ended up making 2 books instead of just one because I was getting too many near-death experiences and angel rescues and things like that. And I felt like that deserved a book on its own. So I brought out Death's Doorstep, near-death experiences, angel rescues, and spirit warnings. And after that, even I guess it was 2 months after that, I brought out, no, it was a little bit more. I brought Death's Doorstep out in July. And then in October the 1st, I brought out Signs from Beyond 2, More Signs from Beyond.
So not busy at all, right? No, I'm just
just a little bit, I'm working on, books 8, 9, and 10 right now.
8, 9, and 10. My goodness, I need to catch up with you. Now, just to shift a little bit, because you mentioned something that you were helping somebody write a cookbook. Now, I love food. You can pretty much tell the way I look. I love food. So, what, if you don't mind me asking, what kind of cookbook is this? Is like, are we talking Southern cuisine? We talking international cuisine?
This is everything you can imagine. It's called. Now, this is the guy that does the covers and the illustrations in my book. So, Mark Elliott Fultz. We're also teamed up as in our publishing company. So, he does my illustrations. I edit for him, and that's how we trade out. So he had My Mean Old Grandma's Good Old Cookbook and more. It took me 14 and a half months to do this thing. It was 1,788 recipes.
Wow.
There is. It looks like a phone book. It you can see it on camera. I'm going to hold it up so you can see it. Look how thick this thing is. So it's like an old phone book, right?
Yeah.
And this thing, he's got not only recipes from his family and things that he's been collecting all through the years, but he's got international things, old international things, one from Russia. He's got haggis from Scotland and, all the things. The first part of the book is the Pretty Sister recipes. So those are the wonderful recipes. They just all sound so good. And while he was having me do this, he would just throw recipes to me, and I would be right in the middle of this lemon pound cake that sounded divine. And, rolls, that yeast rolls, that just sounded so good. And all of a sudden I would get thrown deer heart. Like, oh. So that's in the Ugly Sister recipes. And there is a warning label on the Ugly Sister recipes. So if you're a little bit squeamish, you just don't go into that side of the book. He's got the tale of the Sin Eater, how that started, funeral foods, how that all began. He's got there is a section called Frozen Charlotte, and that's actually a dessert that is, the idea came from the doll, the China doll. So there's an old story about Frozen Charlotte that the girl she was all dressed up. The mother told her, put a cape on or put a coat on or something. You're going across the field to the ball, and it's a long road. You'll freeze to death if you don't put something on. She says, no, I want everyone to see my beautiful ball gown. And so she gets in the carriage with her intended. And when he gets them to the ball, he reaches for her hand to help her down out of the carriage. She's frozen stiff. So Frozen Charlotte, she's dead. And that's how the China doll started. That's where all that happened. And then Frozen Charlotte is actually a beautiful dessert recipe. And it's just got morbid beginnings. It's a great cookbook.
Oh, we're going to go more into that here in a second, but Frozen Charlotte sounds like a good name for a band.
Right. It actually does, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm sure somebody out there will listen to this episode and is going to go ahead and trademark Frozen Charlotte and go out on tour and do their thing. Now, with so many recipes, it's about 1,400 plus, or right around that number.
1788.
1788. Did you try any of those recipes by on your own? Try to cook them?
I will try the Pretty Sister recipes. I will cook those in my house. If somebody wants to make one of the Ugly Sister recipes, they can cook it in their house. I will taste it. I might not swallow it, but I will taste it. I just don't want to cook it in my house.
Sure. If we're talking about deer hearts and pancreas and all that kind of stuff, I think it's a little out there, but it's survival food. If you're hungry enough, you'll eat something.
Exactly. He's got recipes for possum, raccoon, squirrel. I can't. Some of the things you would think, oh my goodness, do they really eat? Yeah, they really ate that. They really did.
Well, I tell you what though, in my area where I live, that might not be too uncommon either, because I think they do have those types of animals here. And when I first came to this country a long, long time ago, people said, "You eat squirrel and rabbits?" For me, that was kind of a foreign concept, but the longer you stay in these southern states, the more you start seeing these things a little more normal. It's just not as much as it used to in the old days,
No, exactly. Even though we might be getting back to it, if the grid goes down and we're forced to survive.
Yeah.
If we're forced to survive, I'm in trouble. Let me just tell you, because I'm so used to technology and all the things. I don't know what I'd do.
Well, the price of the way these groceries are going right now, there's only so many ways I can cook a hamburger helper.
Right.
I think I have 10 different variations, and I think I'm pretty much eating the same thing anyway. But I think we'll be all right. I think we'll be all right, my friend, hopefully, if things get straightened out.
Yeah.
But let's hop into something now, because as many books as you've written, and I'm reading the description of the new book. And you talked about the cover. Let's talk about the cover real quick, because for me, I can't speak for anybody else. I don't know if you feel the same way, but I look at this cover, the simplicity of the cover, but it says so much.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of already felt kind of emotional already looking at the story, with the cover of the book for these stories, because I can relate with some of the subject matter in this book. And with these stories, I'm assuming that some of these are very personal for you. Some are your own, maybe other family members, but I recall, and correct me if I'm wrong, my friend, that also people submitted stories to you too, right?
Yes, yes. And when that first book came out, I had people coming up to me at conferences and different places I was speaking, and they'd say, I have a story I'd like to tell you, or I have a sign from my mother that she died 10 years ago. And I had a dream about my uncle, or whatever. My cat came back to me, and things like that. And I thought, okay, well, I'm going to have to do a sequel. I'm going to have to do a sequel. So I started collecting stories again, and they're from all over. There's one of my friends is in the UK, and she's got a story about her grandmother. This is Natalie Mosley. She has a story about her grandmother and her two horses and a goldfish. So it's these stories are incredible, and I am so blessed that people send me their stories to even think about putting into a book. And they're so personal and so moving. And I never get tired of reading them. I just don't.
It's one of those subjects that for some people might be a little, I'm not going to use uncomfortable, but I think we can all relate. And I'll tell you from the description, we're talking about pets. And that one kind of gets me. I had last year two of my pets pass, Zeus 14 and William or Willie. He was a 17-year-old cat. He was, for those that have been listening to the show for a while, from the very first episode, you'll always hear him in the background because he was always messing with me. Or he would nip at my pants or claw me. He's like, why aren't you paying attention to me? Every once in a while, since his passing, I kind of still feel him here. Like I might hear like a little chirp. I don't have any more cats anyway. And sometimes I'll feel like a little tug on my pants. So I don't know. I get a little lost in the story because when I hear about pets, it kind of gets me, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as a pet lover, it hurts just as bad losing a pet, in my opinion, than losing a person because they're still family.
They become family. That's right. And I just last week had to say goodbye to my sweet Bella, and she was 15. I took her in. She was having trouble breathing, and the doctor did X-rays, and he came back in. He said, "I'm so sorry." And I knew taking her in, I knew I was going to have to say bye to her. I just had that feeling, that horrible feeling. And I've had to put down pets before, and I stay with them. I can't not stay with them and talk to them because they're my babies. I don't have children. I have two stepsons who I love very much, but my cats are my children.
Yeah.
And Queen Bee, Bella, has been around, it just seems like forever. And I finally had to put her down last week. She made her final podcast appearance a couple of days before. So she was actually on camera a couple of days before that. And people got to see her one last time. But it's hard. One of the stories I got from a good friend of mine, she's a part of the Bench, I love this name, Bench Breaking Broads Ghost Hunting Team. And they're great. There's 4 women. 2 are from Alabama. The other 2 are from the Mississippi area. And one of the sisters has since moved up northeast. But they met at Old South Pittsburgh Hospital and sat on a bench and broke it, hence the bench breaking broads. So Helen, one of the girls, sent me a story about one of her clients. This person had come across country from the West Coast and came all the way and landed in Mississippi. She had run from a horrible marriage, bad abuse, and she took everything with her and a kitten. And several years later, the kitten died, and it was all she could do to hold herself together. She went and got a kitten and brought the kitten back to her house. And the kitten stayed in the closet and looked at the corner, wouldn't come out of it, wouldn't eat, wouldn't drink. And finally, the little thing started losing weight. And she took it back to the pound and said, look, something's wrong. I don't know what it is, but I can't get her to eat or drink or anything. And I'm afraid she's going to die if I don't bring her back to you. And so she left that one and took another one home. Same thing. The same thing. This kitten, this new kitten, the second one, sitting in the closet, would not come out of it, would not eat, would not drink, started losing weight. She took that one back. And she thinks, no, I'm not going to take a third one. I don't know what to do. So she called her friend, Helen, from the Bench Breaking Broads. And Helen came over and she said, I don't know. There's nothing bad here. I don't know what they would be looking at. And this woman was very, very meticulous on cleaning. So every time her cat had used the litter box, she would go scoop it out immediately and then level the sand. She was very OCD in that way. So while she was talking to Helen, now her cat had been gone several days. The two kittens had been gone several days. And Helen's talking to her in another room, and they hear litter box scratching.
Mm-hmm.
They go in, litter is everywhere on the floor. And Helen goes, oh, your baby's still here. That's what those kittens were looking at. And, pecking order, that cat was still in charge. So she said, you're gonna have to talk to your baby and tell her that, whatever you want to tell her. But you could ask her to send you a kitten that she chooses. And so the woman talked to her baby and said, I love you dearly. I miss you so much. There's never going to be another one like you. You were with me in all the bad times, and I want you to go on to the light, but please pick out a kitten for me. 2 days later, there was an orange kitten at her door. And there was no problem with that orange kitten. It took to eating and drinking and litter boxing and the whole thing because that cat was chosen.
Amazing. That is, it's interesting with these pets. Now, you're the first person I'm telling this because this just happened a couple of weeks ago in the spirit of the same story of the cats. When Willie lived here in the podcast studio, his litter box, we have a dome, it's plastic. So every once in a while you hear them scratch, and they missed the sand altogether, just scratched the plastic. And about 2 nights ago here, I was doing some work in one of the episodes, doing editing and whatever I'm doing. I started hearing that scratch. But it wasn't coming from the normal corner, which would have been to my left, but it was coming from behind me on the wall, which was kind of strange. And I'm thinking, please tell me there's no rats or possums in my walls. But
Yeah.
But he had a distinct way of doing it. It's almost his habit. A certain number of times he'd do it, or how loudly he did it. It was the same sequence.
Mm-hmm.
And once I left here, I haven't heard it since. But it's kind of like he's still here somewhere around here. He's looking after me, trying to make his appearance on another show as always, like he used to.
Aww.
But there is definitely something to that. And with a lot of these stories that you've gathered and written about, I don't want to give away too much on the second installment of your book. Let's talk about the first portion of the book. Have there been any stories that once you've written them down and then finally put them in your book that stuck with you after the book's published that you haven't been able to get out of your mind? Is there one of those that keeps circulating in there?
Well, my baby that we lost in 2022, Wyatt keeps checking in. And that's a never ending thing. So I will continue to write about Wyatt and how he shows up to me, his mother, his grandmother, all of us. I had a psychic medium, a friend of mine. I didn't actually know she was psychic, and she reached out to me one night and said that she had a gentleman that was coming through to her because he wanted to say something to me. It ended up being my dad, and what was so odd is that she mentioned a carol, and I don't know many carols. And she said, you were related to her. And I said, the only carol I can think of is my first mother-in-law, and we did not get along. It was a bad marriage, a horrible marriage. And when that dissolved, I left that in the past. Never spoke of it. It was a horrible time in my life, and it was good riddance once I was away from that family. This carol was coming through, and I was like, that's the only one I know, and I don't know anything about them anymore. And she said, well, she's passed. She's on the other side. And I have no idea. No idea whatsoever. She said, but your husband? And I said, that was my first husband. She said, well, where is he? I don't know. Honestly, I got away from that family, and I do not know. I did not keep tabs. I just, the least I know about that family, the better. And she said, well, she can't cross over until you forgive her. Oh. And I was like, what? Did this woman? And I was in front of my computer, and I searched this woman's name. She had died in 2017, and I didn't know that. I had never spoken this last name to anybody, and you can't search it and find a connection between us. So it was odd that came up, and she said, do you forgive her? And I said, yeah, I do. And she said, she was ugly to you. She absolutely was. And she said she was wrong. She wants you to forgive her. And I said, I forgive her. And she said, what about your husband? And I said, my husband has nothing to do with it. And she said, well, this is his mother. No, that was my first husband. Well, where is he? I have no idea. So it was just a strange conversation. And she said, well, your dad is pacing. I said, yeah, because he couldn't stand that woman. He couldn't stand that whole family. And she said, well, she's fading away now. So you forgave her. She's fading away. She said, and your dad just said, thank goodness she's gone. So that was very interesting, though, because some things that you wouldn't think would ever come back up sometimes do, and it's almost in a startling way. And like that woman, I had no idea she had passed, and there's no way that this girl could have known there was a connection between the two of us. There's no way. So it's just very odd. Some of the stories in this book are just so touching, though, that a mother has shown up in a picture that after she passed a couple of years before that, or a cat that ran away. They thought had run away. It had actually died, and it was showing up on security cam. So it had come back home to let them know that it was okay, but it was just checking on them. Some of these stories are they're all incredible. All of them are amazing stories on their own right. And the fact that I get to read them first is just a blessing, complete blessing.
When you receive these stories, you probably write them down, and those that provided to you this information, once they read them, what's been their feedback? How do they feel about having their stories out there for the public to read?
Most of them want their names mentioned and a memorial for their loved one. Say if it was Aunt Sarah, their birth and death dates, and I put in memory of Aunt Sarah and the death and birth and death dates. Some don't want to get that personal. They'll just say, just put in memory of Dad, and no dates. Okay, that's fine. There's been a couple that said, I want my story told, but I don't want people to know where it came from. Okay, well, I can make up names. And I always, when I write them, I send them back and say, is this right? Is this okay? And mostly they're okay. There's been a couple of times where I've gotten something completely wrong, and they said, "Oh no, this was my mother. That was the sister." And oh, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. Let me fix that and send it back. Yes, that's right now. So, but I always make sure that it's okay with the person before it goes to print. Always.
Well, I'm sure because they want to make sure that the information is correct. It's going out there, and at the same time, I think I believe it helps the person themselves being able to read these accounts to finally come to peace with even if it bothered them or if they weren't ready to quite let go just yet. And touching on that and talking about when family members come back to make contact with a loved one. I haven't had that experience yet. I've had other experiences, but not that one. When a loved one comes back to make contact with a certain person or their family, what is be the best way to know it's them? Because let me use this as an example. You know how some family members have their own inside jokes or have their own things they do with each other. Like if you have an annoying cousin, he'll flick you in the ear or he'll do something really stupid like that, right?
Yeah.
What is the most common ways that some of these family members contact their living family members?
It's funny. My friend Buddy up in Rhode Island, his wife was dying. She had, when they got married, she was in congestive heart failure. And he actually proposed to her in the ICU. And she got out of ICU. She had bariatric surgery, all the things. She got very healthy for a while. They were even able to go hiking and do things that she normally hadn't gotten to do. But she ended up dying very early. And they both knew that was going to happen. But Buddy wasn't ready for it. That was the love of his life. And he found his perfect someone for him and then have to say goodbye. Even though he knew she was sick, that's hard. Now they had conversations and she had told him, when it gets bad, don't keep me alive on machines. And he would say, oh, I don't want to talk about that. But when one of us passes on, let's have a sign. Let's have a specific sign that we know it's each other. And what they came up with that was from SpongeBob. Peanut butter jelly time, peanut butter jelly time. Now, she has come back and checked in with him, parents, friends, and nobody has heard peanut butter jelly time. Nobody. But Buddy knows it's her by the things that have happened. And he hears his name. She'll say Buddy. and out of nowhere, he's the only one in the room, or going down the road, he hears it in his ear. You know, it's her calling to him. The sign that he's seen mostly from her has been a butterfly, and it's a very detailed butterfly. It looks like a monarch, but it's more purple and a yellow and purple instead of the orange and black. But it's got markings like similar to a monarch. He says he sees that butterfly all over the place. And his friends have seen the butterfly. And when they're thinking about Heather, a butterfly like that will show up. So it's just too many things that have come together that seem like coincidence that get you thinking, is that really a coincidence? Or is that really a sign? Well, what I tell people is when you get a sign, who do you think about first? What was the first person that popped into your head when you saw that sign, or you heard that sign, or whatever it was? Because it can be a song on the radio that just plays, or you could hear your name, or a wind chime, anything like that. You could see a cardinal, you could see a butterfly, a dragonfly. You could smell the person's perfume or cologne. You could smell a cigar, pipe, a certain cigarette. You find a dime where you know there wasn't a dime before, a penny, a quarter. It can be just so many different things. And the list just goes on and on and on. But it's who you think of first. That's probably who it's coming from. Now, is that fact? I can't say it is, but I go by feeling. And I've heard Wyatt's voice a couple of times, and I know it's Wyatt. People say, but you can't say for sure that's Wyatt. I can't scientifically prove it was Wyatt, but in my heart, I know it was. So as long as you're okay with that, feeling, if you can sit with that and not worry about what anybody else says, it's okay. Don't worry about having to prove it to anybody. Just know that that sign was for you. Nobody else. It was for you.
And the way you explain it makes a lot of sense. I'm one of the opinion of I don't believe in repeatable coincidences. And if it's something that it's in your gut that you know it's a sign from that person, if it's continually happening, and I'm not saying this happens every day or every week, but every once in a while you start connecting the dots, there's something there. And I think we can definitely go with that. And with these loved ones making a connection with another loved one who is still on Earth, are they waiting to cross over once that loved one joins them in the afterlife? Or is there a certain message they want to pass to them to make sure, hey, I want to make sure you get this message before I go? Why are they still lingering around?
It could be just a multitude of reasons. One, they're not ready to go. They want to hang around their loved ones. Two, there is a specific message they've got to get across, and they haven't gotten it across yet. They hadn't figured out how to manipulate energy to get that message to the person that it needs to get to. They haven't found a medium to go through, or they're acting like guardian angels. We have some of us, well, many of us have people in the family that are going through really bad times. And you try to help, and you can't. They have to choose to get out of this whatever situation that they're in, that they're harming themselves with, or whatever. Perhaps our loved ones stay around as guardians for them, trying to get them off of whatever it is that they're on, or trying to talk them out of harming themselves, or whatever it is. There's just so much. In the first book, a friend of mine just wanted to die. He was done. And he didn't know what else to do. He was just lower than he had ever been and couldn't do anything about it. And his grandmother showed up and said, "Don't do that. Don't do that. You get up right now and you go talk to somebody." And he said, "God sent that lady to me, because there's only one person that could have talked me out of anything, and it was my grandmother. And God sent her to me to keep me from harming myself. I know that." And it's profound messages like that hit you so hard. It came from whoever, your loved one, from God, or from, an angel, or whoever. It's just one of those things that hits so hard that there's nothing else it could be.
What an amazing way to be inspired to keep going, to get a message from a loved one.
Right?
And with writing these stories, because, and I know the listener, they probably can tell by the sound of your voice, but for those who unfortunately can't see this on video, I can see the emotion, and I can see the love you have for telling these stories. In my opinion, I think that eventually something like this can be very draining. And I know after you finish writing the book and you're out there promoting the books, what do you do in between? Because I would be exhausted.
Yeah.
So what are you doing to keep yourself, keep yourself, I'm not saying, I don't want to use the word depressed or sad, but what do you use to pick yourself up and say, it's going to be fine, just keep going? How do you keep the energy flowing?
Once I'm to that point, I have to get my mind off of everything. So it's actually working on another book.
I knew it.
And that's what I'm doing right now, because this past year, this has been a hard year, a really, really tough year on all of us in the family. My mother fell Christmas Eve of 2024 and broke her hip, and then fell again and had to have another surgery. It dislocated and had to have another surgery. It dislocated and she had to have another surgery. And on March the 24th of 25, she had her fifth surgery on the same hip. And so she's been in the nursing home since. And we've got the diagnosis of vascular dementia. It's just one of those things that's, it hits and it drains you, and you do everything you can for whoever in your family. And there's, insurance and paperwork and, oh my gosh, just so much. So what I have done is started working on this next book, and it's about newspaper stories. So I'm not having to think. I'm just typing and getting this out. That's been my therapy. And this book number 8 is almost done.
Already. And I knew that you were up to something because I've known you now about 2 years, 2.5 years. You've been coming on the show, and you're always hustling, you're always working. And not to give too much away, because now you got my attention. You got my attention, my friend. Newspaper clippings. Give us a little bit of glimpse at what it is that we're going to be talking about.
These are old ghost stories. And
Love it. Love it.
yeah, oh, it's some of the best stuff. Mark has done a lot of research, and this book is going to be by both of us. It's going to have Mark and my name on it. But it's from the 1800s up until, I think the latest story I've got in there is 1959, and didn't want anything after that. And there's only one 1959. Most of them are 1800s and up to about 1920. So you've got all that Victorian ghost stuff and things that happen to people, even vampire stories and ghouls and strange happenings in the woods, strange poltergeist activity. And this is all over the world. So there's Irish stories in there, English stories, Australian stories, and lots of U.S. stories. But it's just been so wonderful. One of the stories I came across is not a ghost story, but they thought it was, and it made the paper. So what happened was, this guy was on a train, and the guy taking the tickets walked by him, knew he was a reporter, and said, "Oh, if you're lucky, you'll get to see the ghost." And he's, "Ghost? What?" He says, "Yeah, going up to the front, going up to the engine, and just wait up there." And so he did. He went on up to the front, and the guy was up there. He said, "I was told to come up here." He goes, "Come on in. Maybe you'll see the ghost tonight. I'm going to get it this time. I'm getting it. I'm not going to stop the train and wait for it to move. I'm going to go through it tonight." And so they were waiting, and they came around this bend, and the guy said, "Look, there's the ghost. There's a ghost standing on the tracks." And he goes, "I'm not slowing down tonight." And so he sped up that train. And the closer and closer it got to the ghost was standing there. It was just not moving. And then it got right up to the ghost, and the ghost flew off the track and ran across the field, and you could see trousers underneath the white sheet. So it was a guy
Oh my gosh.
terrorizing this train. And then found out, okay, it's just a guy. Darn it. But it made the paper.
Well, yeah, there's one or two ways to make the paper. Either be flattened by a train or
Yeah.
or scaring the dickens out of people. So I'll tell you what, I'm already on the hook with this book. And now for our friends and listeners, they want to learn more about your research and of course your books and the one that's yet to come out, because I know they're already on the hook for it. Where can they go find out?
Go to Amazon, look for Cyn Shrader Hill, and you'll pull up Mark's books as well, and people's that I have edited for, like Eric Freeman Sims with let's see, Small Town Haunts and Legends of Tennessee. He's got his book out. It's anybody that I've edited for, they'll come up under my name too. So go ahead and check those out as well. So Amazon, my books are in paperback, Kindle, and Audible version. So if you don't want to read it yourself, you can have it read to you. And be on the lookout for book 8, 9, and 10 coming soon.
Of course we will. And speaking of 8, 9, and 10, I know 2026 is here early on, but I'd love to bring you back on later this year.
Please.
Talk about those 3 books, because I'm interested in not only that train story. We're going to go talk about that one more time, but I know that you're going to have some stories in there that are going to be amazing, and we're going to be very shocked at what we see there.
Yeah, they're fun. They're fun.
Excellent. Thank you for coming back on Let's Find Out, and I'll see you later this year.
Thank you.
Thank you, my friend.
Copyright Diego the Podcaster. All content for Let's Find Out is the property of Diego the Podcaster and is served directly from our servers with no modification, redirects, or rehosting. All celebrity impersonators are paid performers. The impersonated celebrities do not endorse or promote any views or opinions expressed by our guests, Diego the Podcaster, or Let's Find Out. The information shared on Let's Find Out with Diego is provided on an as-is basis, with no guarantees of completeness, accuracy, usefulness, or timeliness.